Hard jelly tips.
Christmas on the beach.
Jet planes.
Pavlova.
Triblis.
Gene Bannon.
Bungee jumps.
Here we are, trying to outdo each other on YNZ's the best. Feel free to go outside and enjoy the view. We'll be a while.
Dan Carter's Undie campaign.
Welcome to Southland MitoQ in New Zealand's Deep South, a region renowned for its unmatched beauty. This week it provides a natural playground for New Zealand's best road cyclists in the 66th edition of the SBS Bank Tour of Southland. Over 7 days we will see all the Deep South has to offer, starting and finishing in Invercargill, a city transforming for the future, through fertile farmland, the rugged south coast, the beauty of Souhland and the majestic remarkables in Queenstown, all to push the country's top road cyclists to their absolute limit. 126 riders, 21 teams, over 860 kilometres and one winner. This is the 2022 SBS Bank Tour of Southland. The penultimate day of racing lived up to the hype, setting up a fitting climax to the 2022 Tour of Southland. After multiple attempts at breaking the race up early in the stage, a 10-strong breakaway finally managed to gain a decent advantage. That number whittled down to 4, who stayed away to the stage finish in Gore, Oliver Grave taking the stage honours. But the big prize went onto the back of 22-year-old Southlander Josh Burnett. The New Zealand age group mountain bike representative rode off the front of the peloton over the final 15 kilometres of the stage to take a razor-thin 8-second lead and give himself a shot at history on Saturday's final day.
Yeah, it was pretty special. That was our plan all day to try break it up near the end there, and it worked out pretty well for us. So all the boys were pretty stoked, and for sure morale's pretty high at the moment. 2 stages to go and pretty good position, so we'll just give it our best shot and just see what happens out there.
Obviously this is one of my bucket list tours to do, the SBS Tour of Southland, so I've been looking at it since I was under 19, but this is kind of opportunity popped up and I couldn't say no to it. The weather's been unreal, and the boys have just been chipping away, and obviously the young guys, each day they've just been getting better and better and more confident. So I think overall as a team, as you saw yesterday with Ollie Graves getting the stage win, we've come a long way in the last 6 days.
We've done a little bit of stage racing overseas, multi-sport stage racing, and so that's been really good to transfer over nutritionally, looking after ourselves, recovery, but the racing on the day, the tactics, completely different because we're used to riding by ourselves a lot. But yeah, it's been a very steep learning curve, and today I'm hoping to sort of piece that all together and make sure I can use those learnings from the last 6 days today to be hanging in there again at the end of today around Queen's Park.
Yeah, it's a great race down here, Tour of Southland. I think it's one of the best races in Australia and New Zealand, a full week stage race, great roads, awesome scenery, crosswinds, get everything thrown at you, mountains, remarkables, the bluff, so it's a fantastic race, we're happy to be here. In the time trial, you can't hide, it's man against the clock, and you get to showcase how strong you are in a straight line, or in this case, left and right, headwind, crosswind. So yeah, we're looking forward to trying getting some time back in the time trial this morning.
2, 1, go!
The penultimate stage in this year's SBS Bank Tour of Southland. It is the man versus the clock, the race of truth. Nowhere to hide for each of these riders here as they try to ascertain how they're going to take that yellow jersey off the man from Southlands. Each of the riders going off at 1 minute intervals over the 13-kilometre distance here, a circuit just on the outskirts of central Southland's Winton. A stage that's been used for a number of years here, and a stage that has seen the overall general classification changed for a number of years as well. as we see the man now for the Quality Foods Southland team. The man that was in yellow early on this week, Boris Clark, a surprise man into the yellow jersey, but he's had a fantastic tour, as has his team. And today they know that one of their ambitions is to all ride extremely well in the race of truth here if they are to hold on to the Wednesday Cycles team classification based on the top 3 in the general classification. You can see this man down on his bars here, not allowed anymore to ride with the time trial bikes. They have to get themselves into as much as they possibly can into an aero position as he heads along the back straights here, around back into Winton to establish his time here and try and hold on to a top 10. The green colours of the silver medalist from the Commonwealth Games, Ben Oliver. Off he heads, 4th on general classification. He is only 54 seconds off the yellow, allowing the fact that Creation Signs MitoQ have a couple of cards to play, as they have all week long. And he himself also now gets right down nice and low, aerodynamic as he possibly can here, trying and hoping that potentially he could get himself onto the podium to join Josh Burnett if he can come out with a fantastic time trial here. These guys in the top 10 general classification have got a lot to play for here around the 13k distance. He continues to pound on to the big gears as he makes his way into the finish, lowering the time there of Clark's to a 17:02.68. Meanwhile, our under-23 leader has opted to go into the black skin suit here. Kench, he's been talking up a big game here for the time trial. Is this going to be his bid for glory here today? He is in that top 3 position. Can he move himself up in this time trial? It's all going to be about how the body has reacted after 7 days worth of racing. Some of these riders are getting stronger as they go, but the fatigue factor is starting to set in for a number of these guys here as Kench comes through. 17:01.72, very respectable time here indeed. The Australian Bettles, the man that took out the remarkable stage, now sets himself off for his 13k journey. Only 8 seconds adrift of the yellow jersey, which of course is the man now mounting his bike from Southland, Josh Burnett. And the things that must be running through his head here today as he tries to secure the yellow with only 2 stages remaining. Bettles sweeps around the corner here and continues to make his way up and around this 13k journey, ensuring that he tries to hold off the challenges of some of the other riders from behind, as we've seen, the likes of Oliver. He's got the advantage of knowing some of the times that have come through here, but can he, more importantly, put himself back into yellow here this afternoon for the ARA Pro Racing Sunshine team? They've had a fantastic week's worth of racing, these guys. They've come here to play, and they've certainly made some big moves, as we see the man in the green here from Southland riding for the Creation Signs MitoQ team. As he said earlier on today, this is only his 2nd time trial that he's actually taken part in racing here. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can produce. Last year in this very stage, he finished in 9th place behind his teammate Oliver. What can he produce today as we see top gear being ridden, the cadence, the wattage that is being produced by these guys as they come down into Winton here. We look to the clocks. It is a 17:20.06 for Bettles. He is starting to struggle out there today with these wins, but more importantly, looking into the street here, not far behind him is the man from Southland. It was an 8-second disadvantage there between the two of them. Can he stretch this out? I would suggest he's going to here because he's not far behind him whatsoever. And Burnett, 16:42.17. That is fantastic. Not only does he hold on to the yellow jersey and extend his lead, but he takes out the stage victory here in the time trial. So the Australian Bettles now in 2nd place at 43 seconds, while Joshua Kent closes in at 56 seconds, and Ben Oliver sitting in 4th place at 1:11.
The only goal was to keep the yellow jersey, and the stage win was a massive surprise, and it's hasn't really sunk in, but we'll think about it later, I guess, because we've got another job this afternoon. Bit of wind out there today, but I've got a really good team around me, and they've looked after me really well all week, so it'll be fun, and be my first time riding in the yellow jersey, so that's something to look forward to as well.
So the riders departing out of Winton here on the final stage of the 2022 SBS Bank Tour of Southland. There'll be a lot of relief in amongst this bunch for a significant group of them, but also a lot of tension with those winds blowing very, very quickly on these riders, where they know they're going to head into a tailwind early on in the stage.
Yeah, the wind is certainly going to have a big bearing on this afternoon stage. It is picking up stronger and stronger as the day wears on. Josh Burnett's going to have to be very, very careful that he doesn't get himself caught out of position. The ride this morning will have given him the confidence to know that he's got the horsepower, but this race is not over. The SBS Bank Tour does not finish until they get into Gala Street, so he's going to have to be super careful as he rolls along here in the early parts of this stage.
Doug, let's head back in history. 1994, you were in this very position in the final stage wearing yellow. What will be going through the minds of Josh Burnett and his team?
Position. His teammates have been in these situations before a lot as well. They've got a lot more experience in the Creation Signs MitoQ team. The likes of George Jackson, James Williamson's been here, done that. They'll be looking after him. They'll be communicating with him. They'll be making sure he's in the right spot at the right time and doesn't get caught out. They'll be around him the whole time, protecting him. But he will just be going through a process. He's got a very, very clear idea of what he's got to do. And for a kid that's only been racing at this level for a couple of years, he is really, really self-assured. It's incredible.
Of course, there's plenty of races inside the major race here for the yellow jersey, including the Harcourt's Sprint Ace. And it looks like Pithy here is doing a bit of a lead-out effort for his teammate who's in the green jersey. That, of course, is Nick Kyrgyzou. He's 3 points ahead of the man in the most combative jersey there, Bridgewater, sitting at about third place as they try and pick up the points. Bridgewater tries to nudge himself up there. This is going to be a fantastic battle all the way into Gala Street.
The ferociousness with which they've fought out for all these sprint prems has been really hectic this year. The wind is going to start playing a factor as they head along. It's pretty much all the way up to the Rackhawk Hill now is going to be a crosswind. So there's going to be a lot of wheels coming and going. And you can see here it's one of the Powernet boys hitting the front. Is that Ollie Jones? He is setting up his teammate in the pink jersey. This is going to be a panic station as Josh Kench is not far off the lead. Josh Burnett could be getting caught out here.
This is a perfect example of team tactics. Ollie Jones driving it, absolutely giving it death here to try and distance him with his man in pink away from the guy in yellow. And they're doing a good job of it here. George Jackson and the King of the Mountains, he's not concerned by that. He's trying to muck things up for them here and try and slow them down to allow his teammate in yellow. You can see him looking over the shoulder. Meanwhile, Kench hits onto the front. The echelon is formed here. This is a serious move. Remember, he's not far off taking the yellow jersey.
Yeah, panic stations back in the front of the peloton. You can see it really starting to split up a bit too. Josh Burnett's position's pretty sharp, but behind it's carnage. The rest of the field here, who may have had aspirations of trying to win this last stage into Queen's Park, they're all just scrapping, fighting for wheels. This is just blowing this whole field to pieces.
Absolutely. Fatigue factor plenty here amongst a number of these riders. The speed is being poured on. Powernet are giving it absolute death here, and a few other riders trying to get onto the tails of it here, potentially hoping that this could be an escape off the front. As we see Paul Odlin, former national points time trial champion, I should say, he's the man that's driving along here, supporting his young protege there in the pink.
Josh Burnett here has been isolated somewhat. There he is in that front split now with Josh Kench forcing the pace. Josh Burnett's taken it upon himself to sit up the front here and get himself into the right position, and hopefully some of his teammates, you can see that looks like George Jackson just starting to come up now to give him a wee bit of respite in this crosswind. But these guys are certainly taking the race to Josh Burnett. They're not going to sit there and hand it over to him just yet.
Yes, you could chuck in the name Bettles of Australia also in the mix there. The top three, they know the value of taking out the SBS Bank Tour of Southland. They want the prestige to have their name at the top of the table in the history books here today, and they are going to give it all the way into Queen's Park. But of course, that will also work to the advantage of a few of these other riders in this peloton here, knowing full well the race that's going on for them. If they could take advantage of that and slingshot off it there when they put the brakes on a bit, as we see James Harvey, one of the men that's been well up in this tour this year, wearing the green jersey early on the week, getting himself towards the front on the wheel of Burnett here in yellow.
And once again, it's the weather conditions providing the opportunity for the likes of Kench here to absolutely put Josh Burnett under such pressure. If the weather conditions weren't like this, it would be such an easier run for Josh in this particular stage. Josh Kench, we haven't seen him a lot at the front in the last couple of days of this race, but he is really trying his best to wrestle that yellow jersey off Josh Burnett.
We see Kench looking over his shoulder, seeing if he is making a dent in the aspirations of the man in yellow as he approaches the township of Browns, about to make the swing here. He's starting to make decisions. Do I continue on my own, or do I head back into the peloton? And it looks like he may be starting to sit up as we see the bunch shutting down the gap.
He really just is searching for that knockout blow in these conditions on this last stage like this. Doing a knockout blow on your own, you've got to be super strong. He is going to need some more help from his teammates, but there's still plenty of racing yet left. We're not even in the hard part of this section.
Jelly tips.
Christmas on the beach.
Jet planes.
Pavlova.
Tribliss.
Gene Bannon.
Bungee jumps.
Here we are, trying to outdo each other on YNZ's the best. Feel free to go outside and enjoy the view. We'll be a while.
Dan Carter's Undie campaign.
So here we have the peloton making their way across Spring Hills, and it looks like there's a few riders heading off the front here in their bid for glory. It looks like a quartet here starting to make their challenges, and it looks like Paul Odlin on the front driving it.
He's been very, very prominent at the front of this stage, and is probably the reason that a lot of these splits in the field have occurred. You can see there, that's the Copeland's rider behind him, Glenn Hayden in the over 35 section, and also the rider number 102, Harvey, and we've got James Cranich from the Transport Engineering Southland Deep South team. They have riders nominated in all the breaks. They had such a stellar week. I know they lost Michael Vink, but these guys have certainly not let that put them off their stride.
Now this will work in the favour of the man in the yellow jersey, because none of those four riders are of any threat to his overall aspirations here. So he'll be able to sit back as much as you can when they're getting along at 65k an hour here through the Spring Hills, making their way towards the Rakahook shortly and up the Lawnville-Dacre Highway. But this here sets up a nice finish for him. Whether or not they can reel them back in, we're about to find out as we now transpose ourselves over to Invercargill, making their way up towards Queen's Park.
This quartet of riders out in front have been away for over half the stage. They are dangling out the front of the peloton by about a minute. This, like we've said, is really playing into the hands of the MitoQ Creation Science team and the young boy Burnett. He will like this scenario. It's a good pattern, it's controlled, and these leaders will be starting to think seriously about their opportunity for a stage win.
Yes, and of course there's one man in amongst this team of four riders off the front here who will be looking to try and take out his second stage victory. Glenn Hayden now just coming into picture here on Odlin's wheel. There he is, looking very strong indeed. We know he's a good time trialist. It was only days ago in which he took off down this back straight to take out a stage victory. Meanwhile, the man in yellow with the green machine sitting on the front, they are in full control of this race at this point in time. Interestingly, Doug, there's a lot of blue colours in there, but I'm not convinced that there are at least three from Quality Food Southland for that team's classification. Yeah,
this is the front group here again coming round. You do it a very, very quick lap round Queen's Park. The road surface is very good. The lead is being whittled down to 23 seconds, so they're going to have to keep cracking and keep working as a unit. But there's a huge crowd here at the end at Queen's Park. Josh Burnett has obviously pulled a lot of these folk in to see him potentially win this year's edition of the SBS Bank Tour. This is the final lap. These guys are looking good, but they're going to have to keep cracking if they want to stay away from this chasing group.
Around 4k to go as the bell gets rung for these riders here. It must be racing through Burnett's head. I haven't got far to go. I could add my name to the history books here as they head up through Gala. They'll turn left and drop down through Queen's Drive. Still with those four riders off the front, you can just see them now. This is very, very tight indeed as a rider tries to jump across here to join the quartet and potentially put himself into the mix here for the stage victory.
And this lead quartet are just coming down Queen's Drive for the last time. You saw in that picture the Rush Velo Ridley rider Cameron Jones from Nelson has snuck across from the peloton to that front four. What an astonishing ride from that young boy from Nelson. But this stage has got a lot to play out. They are still in sight of the chasing peloton, and there's going to be some fireworks coming into these last couple of corners.
Now, you saw a large group there on the left-hand side with the commissaires. They've just pulled them over. These guys have been lapped. They have been peeled off the back early in the stage, so they'll get an average time of the laps here for the circuit as we look to the key players. So now 5 off the front as we head down into Herbert Street for the last time, and they are being chased down by the teams with the yellow in it, with the pink in it, with the Sprint Ace potentially sitting inside here as well. There'll be some adding up of that at the end of the day as well. And of course the team classification, as we see there, a number of teams with multiple riders, that could see a bit of a change as well.
This is agonisingly close for these guys here. Paul Odlum once again from Powernet. He is really putting in a couple of big turns in order to try and drive this group and stay away. You can see him having a good look over his shoulder, but these boys have still got a bit of work to do. There's the young boy that jumped across, Cameron Jones, just coming through to do a turn from the Rush Velo team. That was a huge ride from him.
There is not much between this chasing group and that leading group of 5 riders, but they are running out of real estate if they are to take out the final stage here in this SBS Bank Tour of Southland. You can see the yellow positioned right in the middle of the group. He is counting down every pedal stroke, as is these top 5 riders here, lining themselves up for the final sprint into Gala Street here in the 66th edition of the Tour. They're leaving it late now. Harvey gives it a wee bit of a kick, and it is Cameron Jones from the outside there in the red trying to challenge him as they go to the line though. Harvey's holding on to it. He's got half a wheel. Has he got it all the way to the line? Yes, he does. James Harvey, he takes it out there. The Ridley rider comes in second place. A fantastic effort for him. But more importantly, the story of the day, the story of the week, the story of the year is the Southlander, the first since 1994 to take out victory. Josh Burnett for the Creation Signs MitoQ team. What an outstanding effort by this young man.
Absolutely fantastic ride from Josh Burnett. His family, himself, his teammates, his manager James Kenny, they'll be so stoked. It's a culmination of a huge amount of effort from all of these guys. You can see him here getting congratulated by all the other riders, but that is outstanding. What an incredible ride.
He has dealt with all the onslaught of the attacks. He has dealt with all the pressure. Now to add his name to the 66th edition of this SBS Bank Tour of Southland. It's been a long time coming to see a local lad take out the SBS Bank Tour of Southland, but Josh Burnett does it in fine fashion by over 43 seconds from Carter Bettles of Australia and Kinch at 56 seconds. Nick Kirkazoo was head-to-head with Daniel Bridgewater throughout the week, but holds on to a 2-point win in the Harcourt Sprint Ace. George Jackson, prominent throughout the week in every effort there was, takes out the Jesco Hydraulics King of the Mountains. While Joshua Kinch finishes third on the GC, also takes home with him the Henderson Construction Under 23. After a powerful time trial display this morning, it's Joe Cooper who secures the Stonewood Homes silver jersey. James Kreshnis is awarded the Macleay Jewelers Most Combative for the final stage. A switch around on the final day of racing sees Creation Signs MitoQ take over the Wednesday Cycles team classification.
Dream come true, I think, not only for me but the team. It's the biggest race of the year for us, and we won it. We won teams class, yellow, KOM, a couple stage wins. It doesn't get much better than that.
A wonderful day for Josh Burnett winning the SBS Bank Tour of Southland. I mean, 28 years since I won it, and it brings back a lot of fond memories for me, and it will be a great thing for him. He deserves this, and he's just an outstanding kid. What a big future this boy's got.
Just been worrying about holding on to this jersey today, and now we've done it, so I think a few moments of reflection will come. Maybe not tonight, but over the next few days for sure.
Follow the action from this historic race with live race updates, full results and pictures at tourofsouthland.com.